asking the questions mainstream journalists will never ask. This is your Richie Allen Show on richieallen.co.uk, Fab Radio 2 in Manchester, and triggerwarning.tv.
Let's connect to our guest today. She's a trooper. Speaking of troopers and people who don't get bogged down by the occasional mishap, she's an amazing woman. It's been about 2 years since she was on. She's a former intelligence agent who had to flee persecution in this country, is now living in Argentina with her rescue dogs. I'm not going to tell you where she is. You know her because of her involvement in massive scandals, including arms to Iraq, the trafficking of children, Lockerbie, terrorism and regime change. She was a one-time intelligence advisor to the Labour members of the Parliamentary Select Committee investigating Super Gun. She's published a book, and this was at the tail end of the year, back in December. It's called Shoot the Women First, and thankfully she gave me a copy of it. I'm delighted to welcome back to the programme our friend Andrea Davison. And Andrea, I reckon it's about 2 years since you were on the programme. Time flies. How are you?
I'm fine, Richie, and you, and I've listened to you often, and it's great to be back on the show. And I just want to send a special message to all my Twitter friends who've been so supportive over these years. And it's absolutely great to chat with you again, even though I've had a bit of an adventure getting here.
No, but fair play to you. That's what I said about, you being a trooper. A lot of people would just give up and say, oh, to hell with that. But you've done well. You were due to be somewhere else, but you managed to find an internet cafe. Well, look, as an ex-intelligence officer, I wouldn't think very much of you if you couldn't have sorted it out, Andrea. You sorted it out, and here we are. Do you want to tell, because we've got till the end of the programme, and by the way, the book is available at the usual online retailers, we'll say Amazon.com or Amazon.co.uk. Before we talk about that, do you want to remind our listeners how you ended up? And I know, Andrea, it's a long story, it's an interesting story, it's a terrible story, it's a scary story, but I know you can synopsize it best. Why did you have to leave this country to go and live in Argentina?
Well, in a nutshell, if I'd stayed, I was told by insider friends that they would just destroy me, and I would have no hope of battling against the forces that were against me, and that basically it was the elite paedophiles who are ensconced in so many agencies of the government, including obviously Parliament, the police, the intelligence and security services. And those elite paedophiles have subverted our intelligence and security services really to suit their own agendas. And there's also the satanic angle to it, which of course we might go into later, and that David speaks so much of. And I just had to leave because I couldn't win. I was told I couldn't win. So that's it in a nutshell.
How did you not to? Do you know what? We should do it anyway because it's been so long since you were on. How did you get involved? Now, I came through you, of course. I came to know you through David Icke. David organised you to speak to the People's Voice television way back in 2013, and I didn't know a lot about you then, except what David had been telling me, obviously because, the national media in this country, they're not going to be writing about Andrea Davison and what happened to her and what she had helped to expose. But many years ago, you spoke to David because of some of the things you'd learned. How did you, through your work, learn that there was a powerful, elite, multifaceted paedophile ring operating in this country? How did you come across that?
Well, it was a long process of awakening, and it runs like a theme throughout my book, because you slowly begin to realize the extent of the penetration into the government machines. And it, initially, it's hard to believe. But as you have experience, your experience grows. It becomes increasingly obvious that child abuse is a pivotal part of their agenda. It destroys the awakening soul. It plunges children into apathy and into terror, and it is also stealing their energy, their essential energy. That children have so much energy; they're so pure, and they steal that energy. But how did I actually first come across it? Well, I was. My experience really started in a police cell in Leeds when I was arrested by the police at 13, just 13. And then I was sent to Duncroft Approved School, which again was part of this network of stealing children. And then the more you go into it, if you think about how many children are lost into this system, it really reminds me of what's recently been come out, where the former Prime Minister Gordon Brown said about the children that between 1920 and 1974, 130,000 children, British children, were sold abroad into sex slavery. This is the thing which is totally open. No one is trying to cover this up anymore. Gordon Brown said, that children were denied a childhood, an identity, a family, and any sense of belonging. Many, some as young as 3, were sent abroad, often having been told their parents were dead. And the sheer scale of sexual abuse of British-born girls and boys could be worse than the Savile scandal.
They were handed over to just anybody, weren't they? They were handed over to anybody.
Absolutely, absolutely. So when we're talking about the hidden side of child abuse and satanic abuse, there is also this open side, which anyone could research and anyone can find out. This is true. Children were treated like this. And then children like me and others were sent to approved schools, borstalls, remand homes, correction centres, where they were tortured, raped and beaten. And this was part of a legal system which we still have today, which included judges, the police, social services. Everyone conspired or turned a blind eye, calling it care and protection, whilst they doomed these children to a lifetime of struggle and suffering, and many didn't survive. Those that have, of course, are some of the most amazing people, and you can find them on Twitter and you can find them everywhere. People who survived, children who survived the most terrible suffering and have become leaders and trying to help other sufferers and trying to stop this child trafficking.
Do you have any hope that the inquiry launched into historic sex abuse in this country will investigate any of this, or that it will investigate claims made against some of the most famous establishment figures and politicians? Or do you think it'll be a whitewash in the end, Andrea? What do you think is going to happen with it?
We've seen an absolute shambles, haven't we, right from the beginning, where we had Butler Sloss,
Fiona Woolf,
whose brother was a paedophile, Havers, who was Attorney General at the time. And he covered up for Heyman, of course, MI6 Heyman, which wonderful, wonderful man and friend, Jeffrey Dickens, deceased, exposed to Parliament. And then, of course, we had Wolf, who lived down the road from our friend Liam Britton, who was a notorious paedophile, former Home Secretary.
The man who lost the Dickens dossier, of course.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Who conveniently died before he could be questioned, and so we have had they've consistently tried to cover it up. They have no intention, obviously, of telling the public the truth. If they did, and it would. Their structure would fall, their system would fall. People would start questioning, well, the courts have covered this up. The police have covered it up. The security services, the Home Office have covered it up. The successive governments have covered it up. It is a question that people need to ask. They need to look at the society that they are, as taxpayers, funding, and say, well, what are we getting for our money here? Because these are our children. They are our children. And it isn't historic. They tried to make it historic, but children are being taken from loving parents and adopted. No, they're not sending them to Australia into the sex trade, but they're being adopted forcibly, whether they're mums and dads, or one mum or one dad, or grandparents would love this child, but they're being forcibly adopted. So we're still seeing this same system, which pivots around abuse, lack of empathy, cruelty. It's the same with children and animals, and they are dehumanizing, trying to dehumanize everyone and make them into tools of what is now, it can only be classed as a failed state, because it has failed. It's failed the people. It hasn't failed the elite who profit from it in billions, but it has failed the people who are funding it.
And tens of thousands of children are taken a year in circumstances that are, to say the very least, dubious. Let me remind our listeners, Andrea Davison is live on the line from Argentina. At the moment, we have a decent line, and we can hear what Andrea is saying clearly, which is good. Andrea is, of course, a former intelligence officer. She has written a book called Shoot the Women First. We'll talk about that. She was involved in bringing information to light on a number of very important scandals. And I must point out, because I have nothing to hide, and I certainly do not believe that Andrea has anything to hide. I've known her, and I spoke to her a lot, and speaking to David Icke and others who knew Andrea, people have been saying to me today, oh, this is the lady who was found guilty of fraud, and she was fined all this money, and that's why she's in Argentina. I know Andrea Davison as the woman who had in her possession thousands of documents implicating some of the most senior politicians in the country on the arms to Iraq and Iran scandal, and a woman who had information and documents on the satanic paedophilia that we've been talking about on this program before. And I have always believed, and will always believe, with the evidence I've seen, that the raiding of Andrea's home, the seizure of computers and documents belonged to her, were all part of an agenda to discredit her because of what she knew and because of what she had said. And that's what I believe. People who've been contacting me today to say other things, they can believe what they want to believe, but that's what I believe. Andrea, I'm just bringing that up because it's the elephant in the room, and I want to just put it out there, because when I've spoken to you in the past, people have said that, oh, I read the Daily Mail, this woman is a fraud, she's on the run in Argentina from British justice. And I say, well, no, I know better than that. She's not on the run from British justice. She's on the run from people who tried to destroy her life because of information that she knew. Do you want to talk about that for a minute? She there?
Yes, I mean, it was a one incident at the end of my life when they actually tried to destroy me, and they had every intention of doing that. The charges were ludicrous. One of them was stealing my own passport. It was a ludicrous prosecution, but of course there is nothing you can do against them once they have decided to target you. You have nowhere to go. It's exactly the same as a children. When you're a child, if you're being abused by a senior person, you have nowhere to go.
You had no option, but you had no option but to go to Argentina. Absolutely.
Sorry.
No, I believe, and presenters are supposed to maintain objectivity. I'm well aware of that. But the information I've been presented with over the years, and this is the third time we've spoken. Like I said, I was introduced to you by David. You went to David many years ago with information that you had. David verified it. And I've known David several years. I've never known him to be anything but honest. His integrity is unimpeachable as far as I'm concerned. I saw what he'd seen, and I absolutely believe that because of what you knew about these things, about elite paedophilia and about arms to Iraq and arms to Iran and who was implicated, you had to be destroyed. And people can go online and read the Daily Mail stories, and they can listen to other people, and they can make their own mind up. That's what they should do. This is the reason I brought it up.
Oh, absolutely.
This is why I brought it up.
Absolutely. It certainly wasn't the first time that they had tried. I mean, my book has a chapter where it talks about how they murdered my next door neighbour and tried to set me up for that. I mean, that was in 1991. So, but the times that they've tried before, I had a great deal of protection, and the world was not in the chaos it is in today. So that people who cared about me and for whom I was working, they could protect me from the police and from the paedophiles and from the arms dealers and the maniacs and the psychopaths. They could protect me. But the world has changed so radically, and their power within society has grown exponentially. They target all sorts of people, really. I mean, in the 90s, you would target an insider like myself. You could be targeted if you tried to expose it, and I mean, I tried to expose the child abuse, and I worked on that, and I was never authorised to do so. You could be targeted, but they didn't target ordinary people. I mean, I just think about Melanie Shaw. I think it's, my heart breaks for her. And you think of Julian Assange. I mean, he's been in that embassy all the time that I've been here free, out with friends and walking in the sun and doing the things that people do normally and having meals and loving my dogs. Julian Assange has been in one small room in an embassy, and what has he done? What has he done? And there are just so many people who are in such a worse situation, and I really feel for people who are being targeted by this secret state.
I have a theory, Andrea. I have a theory on this. By the way, I just want to mention, you mentioned Melanie Shaw there. Melanie was on the programme a couple of years ago as well. Melanie is an abuse victim. She was if you heard me typing there, I was just confirming it was Beechwood Children's Home in Nottingham.
That's right.
And she was abused, and some very well-known, very famous people were coming to that home to abuse children. and it's information that Melanie has. And Melanie has spent a lot of the last couple of years in prison, and many people believe, including friends of this programme who know Melanie, believe that her incarceration is punishment and to keep her quiet because of what she might say. And I don't doubt that. I can't prove that, but I don't doubt that. Here's my theory on why you were targeted. I'll tell you why. Around about the time that they were coming into your home, was the time that the access to the independent media began to grow. It became easier for people to find out information. People were making programs. People were doing things. People like David Icke were writing books and others. The information that had been hidden by the mainstream media, Andrea, was suddenly out there, and a woman like you became a very dangerous woman, because while it was okay for you to be wandering around the UK and Wales when the BBC wouldn't speak to you, or the Telegraph newspaper or whatever, all of a sudden you had an internet media, and I think that's when you became very dangerous. What do you think?
I think that's a very astute diagnosis of a situation, really. I hadn't thought about it in any great depth, but yes, indeed. I mean, you're quite right. It sort of coincided in just before they came into my house in 2009. They had my name was on a list, I was told, and it was the Duncroft Approved School list. And because they had been investigating, allegedly, they'd interviewed Jimmy Savile, and I was told, well, they will definitely protect Savile no matter what. And they said, your name's on this list. So it could be that because I was named, because I was at Duncroft, that they decided to look into just how dangerous I might be. And of course, I've been with the services all my life. I had an awful lot that I could have said. And certainly, I agree with you. They wouldn't want me to have said it because I would have had some credibility. So the normal standard practice is to discredit. The best thing they could do, of course, was to discredit me. Was this all these fraud allegations? Now, I do know I was told that they wouldn't get authorization to take me out because I still had a lot of support within the services. So they couldn't get authorization to take me out because other people would prevent them doing that. But they couldn't stop them using the court system. Because you have to remember that Mick Creedon, the Chief Constable of Derby, and this was a Derby-led operation, was, of course, the police officer, as a detective, covered up for Jana and prosecuted Beck. Oh, well, they investigated. He was a detective on the case for the prosecution for Beck. So it was really pretty much squaring the circle. So the officer that came after me, and of course he was criticised himself by the judge in the Sir Richard Henkery's investigation into why they didn't prosecute Lord Jana. And Mick Creedon, who was a detective then, the investigating officers of Jana, Mick Creedon and Kelvin Ashby, the judge said that they were biased against the victims, one children's home resident, and so they dropped the case in 1999. And Sir Richard also found that the leadership of whom was a detective, they failed to cover the basic steps, checking details. They didn't investigate it properly. They didn't follow procedure. And instead, they actually wanted to arrest one of the victims, this is a child, on suspicion of perverting the course of justice. So, once again, it's this section of society within all the different agencies of government where these people are ensconced. And of course, Mick Creedon became a chief constable because he didn't investigate Lord Janner.
Can I jump in?
Quite interesting.
Can I jump in there quickly, Andrew? Can I just jump in there
Lord
briefly?
Janner's son. Oh, sorry. You can, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah.
I'm not.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Oh yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. I'm not.
Okay, great.
I'm not trying to be the devil's advocate, but you mentioned those detectives that allegedly failed in the investigation of Greville Janner. But I understand, correct me if I'm wrong,
yeah.
I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, that many of these detectives around the country who were supposed to investigate other figures like Janner, that an awful lot of pressure was being brought to bear on them from their own superiors, that these detectives were small fry in the grand scheme of things. I'm not saying I excuse the detectives, but I'm saying that they were being put under all sorts of pressure, weren't they?
I think that there are some detectives, and if you notice that a number of them, like the wonderful detective who investigated Jersey, I mean, he was dismissed from his post. So yes, there was pressure put on these people to say nothing, and not to find any conclusions, and to protect the abusers if they were important people or part of their system. There certainly was, and in the interest of objectivity, Mick Creedon has said that there was, but he certainly didn't try to tell the truth then, or to keep that by him, or think about it, or the only time, or expose it in any way, until, of course, it couldn't be covered up anymore. And I think it was opportunism, but as far as Mick Creedon was concerned, but that's my view, that he chose to say, well, actually, no, it wasn't me, it was my superiors. But I mean, Sir Richard Henricks, who conducted the investigation into the failure to prosecute Lord Janner, he has criticised Mick Creedon. It's not me. And I think the most awful part of that was that they wanted to arrest an alleged victim. If you do that on instructions from your superior, I don't think you can be an honourable police officer. Arrest the victim to shut them up.
I agree with you. I can't.
And that's a part of a government report. It's a government report. I didn't write it. It's a government report.
It's all in the government report. One of the questions I've been asked to put to you, when you were being targeted and they were coming to take your documents and your evidence, I've been asked to ask you about gang stalking. Is that something you experienced even before that, gang stalking? People talk about mind control. Did you ever feel that you were being targeted like that? That kind of, I won't call it soft targeting, but that very...
Oh, yes,
tell us about that, Andrea.
Absolutely. I mean, gang stalking, it is a new... I'm sorry, the connection isn't too good, Richie, so let me know if you can't hear me.
No, I can hear you well. I can hear you well, but I'll tell you what we will do.
Gang stalking.
I'll tell you what we will do,
really?
Andrea. Hang on a second. We're going to take a very quick break. We'll take a very quick break because we're overdue a break anyway. We'll take a very quick break. In the meantime, I will disconnect and reconnect to Andrea. Former intelligence agent Andrea Davison is live on the line from Argentina. This is remarkable stuff. She's got a book out at the moment, and we'll tell you where to get the book, and we'll tell you more about it when we come back on Tuesday's Richie Allen Show. It's exactly 8.5 minutes past the hour. Quick break, back in 2.5 minutes.
Is your mind full of ideas, yet you struggle to put them down on paper? Characters with no home, unfinished concepts that you always wanted to finalize, yet lacked knowledge and drive to complete? The creative writing course from Creative Imaginings may be the long-awaited answer. Designed to help you finish your masterpiece with better language techniques, detailed study of the character, plotted suspense chain, and valuable information to get published. Don't delay your creation. Complete your 100% online course at www.creativeimaginings.com.au.
There's a place high in the mountains of Spain, a sanctuary where souls gather from all around the globe to learn about themselves and experience powerful changes in the way we see our world. They become awakened to their gifts and their power to heal others. Become part of this ever-growing worldwide family of unique, pure energy healing practitioners. Discover how amazing you truly are. Go to www.markbayerski.com. It could just change your life forever.
Introducing the H2O app, a powerful water structure and application that programs vibrational energies into water through the use of different sound frequencies. Once programmed, the use of water for drinking, cooking, bathing. Give it to your friends and colleagues or spread it around the garden. The list goes on. It's not just water that the app can be used for either. It's great for programming crystals too. The H2O app is free to download and is available on both Android and Apple platforms. For further information, go to h2oapp.online.
Have you lost access to important data from a computer hard drive, mobile phone, or other storage device? Maybe you have a broken hard drive containing years of information, or a smartphone that no longer works from which you'd like the pictures, movies, and chats recovered. If you would like to recover data from any type of digital device, including desktop and laptop computers, external hard drives, cameras, smartphones, NAS, and RAID servers, then contact Data Clinic today at dataclinic.co.uk now.
Welcome back to the programme. It's Tuesday, the 23rd of January 2018. If ever there was a reason for doing programmes like this, it's for speaking to people like Andrea Davison, who's been live on the line from Argentina with me for the best part of the last 35 minutes. The line got a bit scratchy there, so I took the opportunity to take a very quick break. We're hoping to reconnect her. It was dying out there. She's in an internet cafe. Not easy for me to say. She's in an internet cafe where she's conducting this conversation. She was due to do it at a friend's, but that fell by the wayside. That didn't happen, and she's had to go to an internet cafe. So she's back live on the line with us. Just before we say hello to her again, let me remind you that she's talking to us about a brand new book that she's written, Shoot the Women First, which is basically her story. And it's available at all good online retailers, including Amazon. Andrea, thanks for staying with us. Sometimes when you disconnect, you do make the connection a little bit better when you reconnect there. So it's great to be with you on the programme. You were talking about gang stalking and mind control and your experience with it. Go ahead. Kind of coming in and out there. It's gotten a bit more difficult there in the last few minutes. Are you there, Andrea? No.
Okay. Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear now. Just momentarily there. I thought yes, I can hear you loud and clear. We were talking about gang stalking and mind control and whether you'd been subjected to that. Yes, we can hear you. No, she can't hear us at the moment.
Oh, you can hear me? Okay, great.
Yes, I can hear you.
You're breaking up a bit, but...
There is a bit of a delay. There's a delay.
We'll go on. Okay.
There is a bit of a delay, I think.
I can hear you.
Oh, that's okay. We were talking about gang stalking and mind control and your experiences with that. Do you want to talk about that for a minute?
Okay. Yes. Yes, I will. I'll do it slowly, Richie, because of the delay. It's gang stalking. It's really a new phenomenon. it used to be practiced again for professionals, people who were involved in the intelligence, who they wanted to punish or intimidate and threaten. But it's now become a phenomenon in Western countries, particularly in the United Kingdom and in the USA, where in the USA there are some figures where they say over 1 million people are being gang stalked. Not always necessarily because they're activists, but it seems to be part of an experiment. It's just to see how far they can go before. And the gang stalking is like a deep capture harassment, which includes telephone tapping, surveillance, and covert, human, electronic, and satellite. I mean, I've had helicopters keeping surveillance on me. I think some people do have that, probably, but not too many. That's probably chosen for more important targets. Then they have threats to themselves, their families, friends, and pets. And one of the key places is financial deprivation and ruin. And of course, if you destroy somebody's ability to finance the normal lifestyle, you also prevent them from being able to run their cars, have normal things that everybody is used to, telephones, peace of mind, proper food. And then there's intimidation and also electronic interference. So there has a whole ream of targeting tactics. It can also include arrests and persecution, poisoning, sometimes with experimental drugs, thefts. And that is the security services do teach their operatives how to discredit people. Discrediting it is part of their tactics. Slander, rumour campaigns, cyber stalking, incarceration in mental hospitals, abduction, rape. It's an absolutely abominable way to treat people. It's worse than shooting them.
Who's doing it, Andrea? Who's doing this?
Well, it's the interesting fact is that what they're doing is that they're giving out contracts to private companies in many respects who are full of ex-police, ex-security and intelligence personnel. So that it's sort of like plausible deniability. It's not directly from intelligence and security services who only target people like myself, because that wouldn't cause them any difficulty. So they're outsourcing. Outsourcing seems to be the big thing at the moment. Outsourcing into these private security companies who are targeting these people. They also use there are some rather nasty troll type people online, and who are narcissists who like to attack people verbally, and they use these people as well, often sometimes paid, sometimes not paid, people who like to hurt other people. And once you begin a targeting operation against an individual, they can seem quite insane. Of course they don't seem normal. They seem insane because they are being driven really into madness, and they can often end up unfairly incarcerated in mental hospitals. So it's also a range of things, and not one size fits all. not one size fits all. Every person is different. They have different circumstances. Maybe they have a problem with their family, their sister or brother. They will use that. Or they have a problem with their neighbours. They will use that. Whatever they can use, they will. And I feel terribly, terribly sorry for these people. Of course, you've had one lady on, Catherine.
Catherine Horton, PhD,
Yeah, Catherine, who I've had many conversations with, and she's a terribly intelligent lady. And she is being driven crazy by these stalking tactics. It does seem that the state just steamrollers over these people, and their whole world becomes dark and terrifying. They know they cannot win against the state, certainly not individually, and we do need to have a much more enlightened view to listening to these people and to trying to understand what is happening in the world, and also realizing that there will be an element of paranoia there. And once you've been targeted like this, not everything is targeting, but you will certainly believe it is. You're certainly going to have a question mark over it, anything that happens to you.
This is the desired effect.
It's frightening.
This is the desired effect.
It's frightening, Richie.
Tell me, I want to talk about your book, and Andrea's story is a must read. It's a must listen, but it's a must read. Shoot the Women First by Andrea Davison and Tom Doe. And Andrea is drawn on her own experiences and everything that's happened to her. Has put it in the book. Why did you decide to do that now? Is it because it's the right time to tell people, look, this is who I am, this is where I am, this is how I ended up in Argentina, and these are the things that go on every day. This is the deep state. Why did you decide to write the book now?
Well, writing a book is like a cathartic experience. But, books are a window into the experience of another person, and it links the subconscious mind of the reader and the writer together. I wanted to tell this story. I wanted to unravel these secrets so that people could actually see and understand what was going on, and the truth through following in vivid pictures my training and experience in the world of secrets. Travel in the book to India, Russia, Africa, but the main focus is on the British Isles and including Scotland, of course, and William McRae, and stories just peel back the layers of deception as I just gradually awaken to the truth of the elite psychopaths, that are plunging our planet into chaos. The best way that I can tell my story is to reveal the truth of what happened in my life and link it together, and to use all the relevant details, and so that people can experience it for themselves, so that they can awaken as they read my book. They can journey with me and awaken with me. So in the beginning, I tell it as I felt it then. I didn't know what was going on, and then slowly I begin to see how the world is run, and that's a journey of awakening that you take the reader with you. And it's an amazing thing is that when you link up subconsciously with a writer, and I'm sure we've all done it, but you read a book, you link up with a subconscious, it forms a special bond, and you can transmit your thoughts and feelings and visions. It's like an osmosis. So I thought the world was ready. People like yourself and David Icke and many other people have done so much work to awaken people, the general public, to say, well, the world is not as you think it is. It's not what you were taught it was. And that very much also includes the intelligence and security side, which has often been veiled and hidden and secret. And this is my expertise. That's what I can reveal to people. So it's my little piece of the jigsaw, and I wanted to give that to people. I wanted them to have it. It's my first book, Richie, and it was a real cathartic experience. You can't write a memoir without laughing, without crying, and without seeing things. And oh no, I didn't realize. It's really an emotional experience. It's a deep experience. And there were times where I thought, oh, I don't think I really want to go through this.
Yeah, I can imagine. I want to ask you. I want to ask you this, Andrea. I mean, my opinion on you, and again, I've never cared what anybody else tells me, and I've spoken to other whistleblowers like you over the years, and they've had to cope with the same attacks on their character as you have. I think you're a remarkable and incredibly courageous woman. Looking back at it, where are you today emotionally? You served your country and you served the people of the UK well by what you did. So you love your country, you love England, you love the United Kingdom. You must have love for it. Would you love to be back here? I know you have, I know the lifestyle in Argentina. I lived in Spain. It's not the same, but I know there are similarities. Would you love to be able to come back to this country and be here again in better times?
I'd like to have the freedom to do that. I mean, I'm a Celt. My ancestors have lived in the United Kingdom for, well over 5,000 years. It's in my blood, I'm a rhesus negative, and I link up certainly with all my Irish, Welsh and Scottish Celts, and we all have a bond, and it is our country. So yes, I would like the freedom to come to my country. I know that I can't at the moment, but I am hoping that, not just for me, but for everyone.
Of course,
that when that we get compassion, empathy, truth, and justice for people and animals in the United Kingdom, and when that is something that governments, that universities, and that different agencies look towards being important, that compassion and empathy is important, then I know that I will be able to come back. And that's what we're working towards. We're working towards people awakening, because everything is in the heart. The truth is in your heart. And we don't need to go very far to find that truth, because it's inside of us. So yes, I hope I can come back one day.
And I hope so too. I mean, yourself, because of the nature of what you used to do, how difficult it is to speak to people about these things. If I'm at a party, I don't go to very many parties, I don't get invited to many, and I'm too busy. But if I was at a party and someone said to me, "What do you do?" and I would say, "Well, I make independent alternative programs," they would say, "Alternative, what do you mean?" And I would say, well, I speak to people like Andrea Davison, who's a whistleblower. Now, if I bring up gang stalking and mind control, their eyes glaze over. They think me, Richie Allen, I'm an idiot. This is just crazy conspiracy. How are we ever going to get over that? Because I believe you. Gang stalking is real. Attacking people with sonic weapons, silent weapons for secret wars, or whatever the document was. I believe it's real. How do we convince people it's real? Is it through people like you, because of where you've been?
I think, yes, people like me and other people who have been on the inside. There are some people who've been gang stalkers. You know, they've been on the inside. They have stalked people, and they have come out and said, "Well, look, you know, I can't do this anymore. It's awful." So yes, there are people who are coming out and saying, "Yes, this is happening." There are doctors who are experts at it. It's becoming well known now. It is becoming well known, and I would say to people, I mean, I live from my heart, and you know, I'm basically kinesthetic. But when I write or when I consider something, I look at all the experts. I look for all the information. I cross-check it. I verify it. I make sure that is correct. And that's what I've done in my book. I like put two hats on. There is me, the real person, and then there's the investigator. I want to cross-check everything. I want to make sure that is right. And it is out there for people. It's for people who you know, have AD personalities, people who like facts and figures and to cross the T's and dot the I's. All the evidence is out there, and I'd say go and have a look. Don't listen to me or anyone else. Go and have a look, because this really is important. It's growing. You need to know. Everybody needs to know the world they're living in. They need to know what is controlling them, because if they don't look at what is controlling them, then they won't know if anything they think or feel is real. And that is not a situation any being should be in. We need to know that what we feel are our feelings, not what someone else is forcing us to feel.
What's life like for you in Argentina now?
Oh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's fantastic. The people are so warm. And a lot of the people who came here, they came from the Catalan regions, from the Basque regions. They're all immigrants, you know, and so the Celtic bloodline is very powerful here in Argentina. There is, as I say, an awful lot of people from the Basque region, etc., etc. So you don't feel at all strange. That's what I'm saying. You don't feel strange because you have, as every Celt knows, there is a connection between us, and you're telepathy. It's like a telepathy, and so you can feel that here in Argentina. That telepathy.
Let's remind people.
It's also, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I want to remind people we're talking about Andrea's book, Shoot the Women First, Andrea Davison and Tom Doe, and you can get it online. Go to amazon.com or .co.uk. It's incredibly reasonably priced. The electronic version of it, the Kindle version or the tablet version of it, it's only a few quid. It's a vitally important story in terms of, you know, where she's been, the things that she's uncovered, the things that she's been witness to, the documentation, the arms for Iraq, the arms for Iran, child sex abuse, Greville Janner. She mentioned Heyman Morrison, of course, Leon Britton, extraordinary woman, and they doctored up a fraud case against her to silence her, and before that could result in her destruction, she got to Argentina, which is where she is tonight. Shoot the Women First is the book. I'll give you the final word, Andrea, before the connection completely disappears on us. I'm glad that life is good. I'm glad that life is good for you in Argentina, and you know, I wish you continued success, and I hope the day comes that we can have this conversation in a studio here in the UK. But the final word to you this evening, go ahead.
My final word is, please, everybody, wake up and do your own research, find the truth, and learn about the world around you, and bless you, every single one. Just bless you all. Listen to your heart. Just listen to your heart. It will tell you the truth.
And you can follow Andrea on Twitter. Her Twitter handle, is at Before the Stars. At Before the Stars. She's got a lot of followers there, and she tweets regularly at Before the Stars. And just to mention again, the book is Shoot the Women First, available at amazon.com, amazon.co.uk. Andrea, thanks for braving the electronic elements there and speaking to us from Argentina. I really appreciate it. Godspeed to you.
And you, Richie. It's been fantastic to be on your show. Next time, I hope it will be easier.
It'll be easier next time. We'll make sure next time. But no, I appreciate you soldiering through that. Thanks, Andrea. All the very best for now. The lovely Andrea Davison live on the line to us there from Argentina. Was due to do that at a friend's, but had to do it from an internet cafe. But great to get her on the programme in the end anyway. Shoot the Women First is the book. Right.